Hey, thanks for stopping by the channel. Make sure you subscribe and you're checking out the bell icon so you're getting notifications. This little quick take video I'm shooting down in Burr Oak, Iowa. Like I said, I'm on vacation mode of sorts, if you will. Brought the family down here to tour the Laura Ingalls Wilder Museum site. Um, my wife and daughter have been actively involved in Ingalls Wilder stuff for our little hometown, and thought we'd come down here today. So, what do I want to talk about in this one? Well, we're going to be talking a little bit about measles. So I saw a sign inside of this museum here, and it talked about the the Wilder girls having caught the measles, and they stayed in a hotel down here in Burr Oak while they were living here. And one of the things that the neighboring people would do is they would send their kids over to hang out with the Wilder girls since they had measles, in hopes that the kids would get measles, that they would be able to develop an immunity to it and move on. Now, this is kind of the impact of herd immunity, right? We hear it talked about today, and somehow we cannot achieve full herd immunity in the United States today without vaccines for certain things like the coof. Yeah, well, that's not how it works, okay? And now I want to juxtapose here, and this is how this ties into my channel. I want to juxtapose a little bit about immunity and the way things are how should we say, handled by certain governing entities in the United States today, where we see things like pressure from the commander-in-chief, the president of the United States, Joseph Biden, telling everyone that it's their patriotic duty to get the coof vaccine, and it's also their you're lazy if you don't. You're lazy if you don't get the vaccine. All right, and so we also hear a lot of talk about how you hate people if you don't get the vaccine and you want people to die. Well, let's be real, people. None of that's true, and it's all just a front to put guilt on you, to bring public pressure to bear on you. Do I believe we should be running around and telling everybody who's not had the coof to go hang out with people who that do have the coof now? Not necessarily, but that's how weak we've become as a culture. And that ties into so much of what we do in our societal interactions today. Everything's about weakness. We want to be protected. We want to be protected from things that could do us harm. We want to be protected from things that make us uncomfortable. We want to be protected from anything that could insult us, hurt our feelings, make us feel bad about ourselves, and anything that could bring, like genuine stress into our lives. We use shame culture a lot. We like to shame people, but we like to shame them for things like, not having the right opinions. We like to isolate people for not taking the right views on things. But let's think about how hard it would have been in the 60s and 50s and whatnot to live in a world where you had to actually eke out your existence by hand, or you had to go down and draw water from a well, or a spring, like what you see behind me here. Maybe sort of, kind of. Yeah, there's a little spring back there somewhere. Don't know if you can see it. But that's what hard existence was. See, we become soft in our society today. We become culturally inept. We've become culturally weak. And we want daddy government. We want Uncle Sam to step in and mother us from cradle to grave. And we allow them to do that. And we cave into things like pressure that says you have to have a vaccine. We cave into things like the pressure that tells us that we have to, be protected from something that might cause us some sort of harm. And that's just not the way it should be. I don't need the government breathing down my neck telling me how to live. I don't need the government passing rules and regulations and statutes and codes and everything else to tell me what to do to be safe in my home, what to do to be safe in the community. Let me decide. That's what it means to be an independent individualist and a constitutionalist. I want the freedom to decide what's good for me. I want the freedom to decide what's good for my family and for my children. And that's what you should want too. So if your neighbor kids get the measles, send your kids to play with them. Remember there was a day that the Brady Bunch made a joke out of the measles? We're a long ways away from that time frame where we used to take risks and live on the edge. Pioneers like the Wilders and the Ingalls and others who formed this great nation would not recognize this country today. Let that sink in. And now let your kids go play with other kids, no matter what they have, coof or not. Until next time, sic semper tyrannis.